I will give credit where credit is due. I thought the New York Jets heading into the 2013 season were going to be terrible. We're going to end up with at least a top 10 pick, if not a top 5 pick. Well, they were a little bit surprising. They finished the season strong, ended up 8 and 8, but at the end of the day, they still missed the playoffs. Now, before last season, they had fired Tannenbaum and brought in John Idzik to be general manager. So I thought if the Jets didn't make the playoffs, that Rex Ryan would ultimately lose his job. Inexplicably, he didn't. It is what it is. So now Rex Ryan is in the fold for yet another year. John Idzik has another draft to run. And now let's see what happens to the New York Jets in 2014 and beyond. When you look at the recent draft history of the New York Jets, it's a very mixed bag. It's very, very mixed, to say the very least, because they've had some big time hits. Their 2011 first round pick, Muhammad Wilkerson, is a complete stud. Quentin Coples is going to be a big time defensive player in the National Football League, their 2012 first round pick. And then their second first round pick in 2013, Sheldon Richardson, is also a stud, who surprised me with how well he fit Rex Ryan's scheme this past season as a rookie. Problem is, though, is they've still got some big key questions with some other high picks. Their 2013 first rounder, Dee Milner. They took him number 9, the corner out of Alabama, and he was a nothing. Now, he's only a rookie, but it sure wasn't an encouraging sign for the future based off the way he played as a rookie. Your second round pick, Geno Smith, you devoted a second round pick to a young quarterback. You gave him the reins of the team all year, and it was varying mixed results, to say the very least. He had games where he looked terrible, and he had games that he played very well, and I thought he played very well at the end of the season. But still, heading into year 2 of Geno Smith, especially with them bringing in Michael Vick to compete for the job, you still have some big questions about Geno Smith and whether or not he could be the franchise quarterback for the New York Jets that they so desperately need. And then you look at Stephen Hill, their second round pick out of 2012. He's almost out of the questions category and into the complete misses or bust category. This surprised me. I thought coming out of Georgia Tech with the success of other receivers out of that program, such as Calvin Johnson and Demaryius Thomas, that Stephen Hill had similar, at least, physical traits and characteristics that would allow him to surprise people and be a real value steal second round pick for the Jets, and it just hasn't materialized. Guy can't stay healthy, and when he is healthy and when he does play, he's not very good. So he really needs to bounce back strongly in 2014. Otherwise, he will definitely go into the bust category. The problem, I think, for the New York Jets in recent years when it comes to the NFL draft overall, though, their biggest miss has been their draft strategy. And what I mean is that one of the biggest reasons that Mark Sanchez failed as a starting quarterback of the New York Jets, besides what Mark Sanchez did or didn't bring to the table, you can dispute that all you want. The one thing you cannot dispute is that they did an incredibly piss-poor job of surrounding him with the pieces that a young franchise quarterback would need to succeed at the NFL level. There's no question about this. I don't think anybody can argue this. When you do what you do and you move up so much in the 2009 draft to go get Mark Sanchez, you moved up from pick 17 to pick number 5. You take Sanchez, and then the next 4 years, every first-round pick you have is devoted to the defensive side of the football, whether that's Kyle Wilson or Muhammad Wilkerson or Quentin Coples or Dee Milner or Sheldon Richardson. At some point in time, it shouldn't be a great surprise when your young quarterback that you took in the top 5 of the first round in 2009 fails, and fails miserably. Why? Because he doesn't have enough help. And when you look at the New York Jets, they devoted so much attention to the defensive side of the football, especially early in the draft in recent years, that their defense is very good, but should be a whole hell of a lot better considering the amount of investment they've put on that side of the ball. And what are the Jets? Pretty much a one-dimensional football team. They are a defense-only team. And they have nobody to blame but themselves and the failures of their draft strategy in recent years. Yes, they have accumulated some nice talent on the defensive side of the football, but ultimately, people, where has that gotten them? A couple of straight years of missing the playoffs? Ooh, 8 and 8. Oh, that's something to brag about. Well, 2014 NFL Draft presents a new chapter, a new opportunity for the New York Jets to rectify some previous wrongs. And they're sitting in a good position in this draft. They have a total of 12 picks. 4 of them, of course, being compensatory picks that they can't trade, but a total of 12 picks. When people talk about teams that are sitting well in this draft, and they're talking about teams like the St. Louis Rams and maybe the Jacksonville Jaguars and so on and so forth, the one team that isn't brought up nearly enough, I think, in terms of sitting in a very good, very powerful position in this draft is the New York Jets. You've got a team with a first-round pick, a second-round pick, a third-round pick, 3 fourth-round picks, including the compensatory pick, a fifth-round pick, and 4 sixth-round picks, 3 of those being compensatory picks, and then a seventh-round pick as well, for a total of 12 picks. There's a lot of draft picks here. There's a lot of draft pick currency. And what those compensatory picks can potentially allow the Jets to do is be aggressive in this draft and not be afraid to move up in round one or move back up into the tail end of round one or move up within round two or round three or even round four. Why? Because they have the draft pick currency. They have the ammunition to be able to make those moves. And that's what I think they should do in this draft. Now, in terms of their ultimate draft strategy, like I said, they need to use these 12 draft picks as currency, as an ability, as their kind of pathway to move up when they need to get the guys that they want, the guys that are going to make a big time impact. But it has to be solely on the offensive side of the football. The bottom line is they must give Geno Smith a chance. They must learn from their failures of the Mark Sanchez era. They must learn from the mistakes of their previous draft strategies. And they must devote this entire draft, and I emphasize again, entire draft, to the offensive side of the football. The entire draft. Like, for example, if they sat there and they kept all 12 of their picks, didn't move up, didn't move down, just kept all 12 of their picks, at some point in time, they need to draft a quarterback, 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, 2 tight ends, 2 offensive tackles, 2 offensive guards, for a total of 12 picks. Everything on the offensive side of the football. They must draft everywhere because they have needs everywhere. And even if you sit there and say, well, they got Brickashaw Ferguson at left tackle, why would you draft 2 of them? Draft 2 of them, one of them pans out, you've got your right tackle for a decade. You got 2 offensive guard holes. Maybe both of those guys can play, or at least one of them is a hit. The bottom line is the New York Jets must devote their entire draft to the offensive side of the football. When you look at the team needs, they are all, to me, on the offensive side of the football. Fuck the people that are saying they need to take a corner early. Fuck the people that say outside linebacker is a need. They have devoted enough damn picks, especially high early picks, to the defensive side of the football. They must devote this entire draft, I'm going to emphasize this again, this entire draft, to the offensive side of the football, because if they don't, the Jets will be right around where they were last year, a mediocre 8-8 football team, very one-dimensional, and they're going to miss the playoffs again. You signed Eric Decker in free agency. Good for you. You still need more wide receiver help. That's a huge need. Tight end is a huge need. You could even argue with bringing in Chris Johnson. Running back would still be a big need, especially a big physical guy. Somebody that could do a much better job than maybe a Chris Ivory. You could sit there and definitely argue that both right offensive tackle and the offensive guard positions are big needs for the Jets. You could also argue that another young quarterback somewhere in the middle, later portions of this draft, if the quarterback class that was deep, if nothing else, in terms of guys that could be long-term backups in the NFL, you have to devote a draft pick to that position too. The bottom line is, to me, if it's on the offensive side of the football, it is a need for the New York Football Jets, and as a result, they must devote their entire draft to that. Of course, that's probably why they will take a corner in round number 1, and they'll take another defensive player in round 3 or round 4. And why will they do that? Because Idzik apparently is no different than Tannenbaum, and they clearly don't understand that after so many years of their offense being a clear liability to their organization, that has to be the entire emphasis of this year's NFL draft. There's no question. And to dispute that is ridiculous. Because if they don't devote their entire draft to improving the offensive side of the football, like I said, they will be a mediocre 8-8 football team again in 2014, and they will miss the playoffs. Rex Ryan will be fired, Idzik will be on the hot seat, and Jet fans are going to be wondering when things are going to turn around. It's that simple. It won't surprise me ultimately if they take a corner in the first round or an outside linebacker, because that sounds like something the New York Jets would do. And I can't wait to hear the reaction of Jets fans at the NFL draft at Radio City Music Hall or wherever the draft's going to be at in May, if that happens. That's going to be fun to see.